What's going on with you YouTube fam? You guys are watching TheCaliEffect, and today I am excited to bring you a new Zing deck profile inside of a build breakdown. For the people that just want to see the deck profile, then the list is down below in the description. We're not only going to be giving you an awesome deck profile, but explaining why we play certain card choices, as well as playing them later in the video. But with that being said, let's start off with what we run. We run 3 copies of Jaito Zing of Darkness, the most important Zing of the deck, allowing us to special summon further Zings from our deck if it's the only monster on the field. 2 copies of Suanni, Fire of the Zing. The reason why it's so important is because it is a fire monster, but it is our strongest Zing monster we play inside of our main board. 2 copies of Bian, Earth of the Zing. Now this is the second strongest monster, and it plays a huge part for the disaster True King we're going to be playing. 2 copies of Bixi, Water of the Zing. This card makes our monsters unaffected by traps, but most importantly, it is a water monster with 0 attack. 2 copies of Chiwen of the Zing. Now Chiwen is extremely good because it special summons itself from the graveyard for further synchro plays. It also fulfills the requirement of Jaito for both sides being a 0/0 monster. 2 copies of Zefranui because this card is just awesome. The properties of it being a pendulum card, and then when it's pendulum summoned or destroyed, allows us to add a Zefra or Zing spell or trap card from our deck to our hand is astronomical. Then following up with the Zing's Pulao, Wind of the Zing, because it is an additional name to summon when destroyed. That's it for the Zing monsters. For the Metalfoes, we running through the 6 Metalfoes. We actually run 10 copies. We run 3 copies of SIlvered for our low scale, as well as 2 copies of Goldriver to fulfill the rest of our low-scale Metalfoes monsters. We also run 3 copies of SIlvered and 2 copies of Bismugear for our high scales. I felt that this was the best ratio because we need to play 10 Metalfoes and we need an equal balance of low and high scales, as well as the ability to be able to synchro summon with them if need be. Now on to the True King monsters. We play 3 of the best True King monster in the deck. True King Lithosagym of Disaster. When this card is destroyed, we can special summon any of our Zing monsters that are not Earth from our graveyard to our side of the field. Furthermore, we can banish cards from the opponent's decks if we are destroying 2 Earth monsters. And best be assured, we gain the effects of all of our Zing or all of our True King monsters very well. 2 copies of the Fire True King. When this card is destroyed, we get to search 1 Worm monster from our graveyard and place it to our hand that isn't Suanni. Really good card. Furthermore, if we destroy 2 Fire monsters, we get to banish a card on our opponent has. Next is Bahrastos. The only reason why we don't run more of this copies is because it's extremely hard to summon in there, seeing that we only have 2 targets being Bixi. But when it's destroyed, we get to special summon 1 non-water worm from our deck to our side of the field. That is it for monsters, which brings us to about 30. For spells, we run 3 copies of Dragonic Diagram. There is no way around this card. It is easily one of the best cards in the deck. Being able to destroy any of our cards that we have on our field, hand, and being able to search a True King monster, which will further activate its effects and trigger our destruction of our Zings, is astronomical. 3 copies of Terraforming because we want to see these cards so freaking bad. 2 copies of Zing Path. What this card does is basically a pot of avarice on drugs. It allows us to recycle 3 Zing cards from our graveyard to our deck to draw 2 additional cards. 1 Metalfoes Fusion and 1 copy of full Metalfoes Fusion because we still like to fuse for them foes on our turn. 3 copies of Metalfoes Compilation is going to start off the traps, and when this card is destroyed, we get to add a Metalfoes monster from our deck to our hand. Extremely important and great with Bixi plays. 2 copies of 9 Pillars of the Zing. This is officially our solemn warning of the deck, and it allows us to gain the effects of our Zing monsters when it destroys them. And then 1 Zephyr Divine Strike. We play 2 targets from it, and those 2 targets actually search the Zephyr Divine Strike. So it's a really good counter trap card in this deck. That is it for the main board. Now for the extra deck, we run 2 copies of Bixi of Brightness of the Zing. This card is freaking awesome. Okay, so when it's synchro summon, you get to spin cards on your opponent's side of the field to their deck. But furthermore, you can destroy 1 card you control to target 1 level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field. This card has so many crazy combos, especially with Metalfoes counter. Or the Metalfoes trap card, my apologies. 1 copy of Starlight Red Dragon Archfiend. I felt that this was the best level 8 that was generic. It allows us to destroy all special summon monsters, which could trigger our True Kings and our Zing monster effects. One copy of Crystal Wing Dragon, a card that is essentially very easy to summon inside of this deck, and then add with the fact that we can make it unaffected by spells, trap, give it 500, or not being able to destroy by battle. Talk about an indestructible Crystal Wing. One copy of Yazi, Evil of the Zing. Now this card is pure evil. This card allows us to destroy cards on our opponent's side of the field, and when he's destroyed, it appraises itself with a Zing monster. One copy of Coral Dragon. This actually is a big reason why we can go into Crystal Wing so easily. This card's freaking awesome. One copy of Stardust Charge Warrior. When this card is synchro summon, you get to draw a card. Who doesn't like to draw cards? And then two copies of Danglong, probably one of the second most important Zing cards in the extra deck. When it's summoned, we have to add one Zing card from, or one Zing spell or trap card from our deck to our hand. Furthermore, when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon one Zing monster to your side of the field. As well, you can also send one Worm monster from your deck to the graveyard, and it becomes that level. One copy of Herald of Arclight for great negation plays. One copy of Full Metalfoes Alchemist. This card is freaking drugs. It allows you to snatch your opponent's monsters. Two copies of Metalfoes Mithrilium, because things get real when this card is summoned. This essentially not only spins cards from the field to the hand, but allows us to reshuffle our Metalfoes cards that were sent to the graveyard to our deck. One copy of Hope Harbinger, because it is very easy to summon two Boxias on the first turn, and there's only one thing to do with two Boxias. And then True King of all Calamities. This card is extremely easy to summon with this deck, and it punishes the opponent for playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, that is it for the deck profile. Let me show you some more of these exciting combos in the build breakdown. The combos of this deck. Oh man, the only thing I can say is Zing Master Race is too strong. This deck is back in full action, and I don't think that there's a lot of decks that can keep up. Even the infamous Zodiac deck, if going second, should have some extremely hard times breaking a True Clean Calamities board with some counter traps to prevent the opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually playtesting against a couple of Zoo decks, it did have an extremely good chance of winning going first in the matchup. Now, am I saying this is the best deck of the format? No, not really. But what I can say is that this deck could be legitimately competitive inside of the right hands. As you guys can see, I am scraping boards. And Maxi is a card that I legitimately want to play, especially if I'm taking it to a local competitive scene, But the True King of Bahrastos was amazing. And I'm not saying I'm just going to say F Maxi. I'm going to find a way to put it in there. It's actually one of the suggested cards down below in the description, as well as with the deck profile. But that water monster is just really good, being able to special summon 3 worms from your deck. And it's a very good card going first, allowing you to play almost break any board or make any unbreakable board. My apologies. The best thing about this deck is that even though it does pendulum summon, it doesn't necessarily need too many monsters from the extra deck, and that's where people have to understand that links will practically kill that pendulum aspect. But at the same time, decks that don't necessarily need that extra deck space or need to summon a plethora of monsters from the extra deck to your side of the field will probably still thrive, and this is what this deck does best. The main thing about this deck that really would hurt a lot of decks going to the future is Lithosagym. This deck can abuse the living daylights out of it, being able to banish all of your opponent's link monsters to prevent them from special summoning in mass might be very critical. That with True King Calamities, your Zing's counter trap card, as well as Zephyr Divine Strike, and cards like Zing Path can completely dominate the opponent. This deck almost never runs out of the monsters with the constant stream of cards you do have. As you guys can see, this time around my opponent does open the Raigeki, but I just so happen to open the Boxia combo, so I'm just going to go ahead and make double Boxia. And in this instance, since the Boxia doesn't necessarily hold any genuine weight to me, I'm going to use both of those Boxias to make the Hope Harbinger, effectively ruining his Raigeki play. And another thing about this deck, especially if you go first, you can play back row through back row life. It doesn't even matter. It could have been 8 solemn strikes, you know, 5 in his back row and 3 in his monster zone. We would have found a way around it because that's how good this deck can get. It's a genuinely extraordinarily devastating deck. If you guys would like to see more build breakdowns like this, please give this a like. Also share it with your friends. It is very important. It took me a lot longer than it should have to make this build breakdown, but I genuinely really do like the improvement of this. So please let me know your comments down below in the description. Also, make sure you guys click on an ad, some video or whatever, or even just watch more videos. I really don't care, as long as you are supporting this channel and letting me know what you guys like to see. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Let's get you guys into the ending credits right after this game. What's good with you, fam? You guys can always catch me on social media, Face Chat or MyGram. It's always going to be TheCaliEffect. Most importantly, if you want to buy the cheapest cards from your favorite Yu-Gi tuber, you can go to eBay or in Google Documents. That is down below in the description. Make sure you subscribe to my alternate channel, King of Leon, for other things TheCaliEffect related. But most importantly, treat yourself to another one of these videos down below. Thanks for watching.